My head's too big for this fuck-ass hat. Sorry, Luffy. Elbaf has started. I am very excited about it. I'm so excited I'm making a YouTube video. That's how excited I am. This video is going to be a bit of a mixture between my old talking to the camera videos, but with a bit more effort put into it. Let's see how it works. None of this is going to be scripted. I have my phone here with some notes, so I'm going to be reading off that. Just try to keep things on track. But I am so excited because as of chapter 1126/27, we are on Elbaf. This is the most anticipated arc in One Piece history. You know, there was Fishman Island, which, you know, was hyped up since Arlong Park, but, you know, that happened halfway through the story. Then you had Wano, which had some build-up since Thriller Bark, but Elbaf has been being built up since Little Garden, and we're constantly getting reminders of it. Whenever Usopp talks to giants, like the one time it happened in Enies Lobby and the one time it happened in Dressrosa. But it's still important, that's still twice. This is also the first arc that I have started since catching up on One Piece. I caught up on One Piece halfway through Egghead. So I'm just really excited. So I want to make this video to kind of go over all my wishes. Oh, also, this is an Usopp arc. Usopp is my fucking guy. You know, I'm a big fan of Luffy. Luffy's my favorite Straw Hat, but Usopp, you know, sometimes I think I might like Usopp just a little bit more. I want Elbaf to be the best arc since the time skip. That is my hope for this arc. That is like, at the end of the day, that is what I want. So I'm making this video to kind of go over my wishes of things I think could realistically happen in order for it to fulfill that expectation of being my favorite arc since the time skip. So let's go over another big wish here. I want this arc to have a scope comparable to Enies Lobby and the Summer War. Those are two fantastic arcs that are still talked about to this day because they have such wide reach. Let's just go over Enies Lobby alone. Enies Lobby was not only the introduction for Frankie as a Straw Hat, but Robin got some heavy focus. Usopp got some heavy focus. Sanji got some heavy focus. Luffy was tested as a captain. Zoro stuck in some character development there. All the Straw Hats got major power-ups and focus, and all of it was so focused. And that was also the arc where we declared war on the government and established that as the overarching enemy. So much happened in Enies Lobby, and I feel like the shortcomings of all the post-time skip arcs has been that they haven't been able to meet that same level of scope. Dressrosa is great. Dressrosa is great. Whole Cake Island is great. Wano is great. Egghead's great. Oda is on a great streak right now, but I don't think any of those arcs individually kind of hit that same level of scope. They always narrowed in on something. Dressrosa narrowed in on Law and Rebecca. Whole Cake Island focused a lot on Sanji, that it felt like all the other Straw Hats who were present really didn't get too much to work with. Wano, a lot of people still wanted that to be Zoro's arc, and I am included in that. I think Wano really was a missed opportunity to be Zoro's arc because it was really just focused on all of the samurai and Odin, Kozuki, and then finally there's Egghead, which again, Luffy was the star child of the arc. People wanted it to focus on Frankie, but instead we got Bonnie and Kuma were the main focus. But that's fine. I'm okay with that because again, all these arcs are great. I just want Elbaf to be more. I think Elbaf is the land of giants, so if any arc deserves to be the biggest arc in One Piece history, I think Elbaf is a very safe slam dunk for that. So, now I'm going to go through my wish list. I'm going to be conferring to my phone a lot, but I will try to tackle this in somewhat of an order. I'll try to go over the big things first, and then kind of have the side smaller fringe case wishes towards the latter half of the video. But first, before I focus on any of the characters, let's talk about the location. You know, if we're focusing on this arc, I want Elbaf to be one of the nuttiest locations yet. I see a lot of people talking about the 9 realms, and I think that's a good starting place. For me personally, I just want it to be vertical. You know, we know that the big-ass fucking tree is on Elbaf. So let's make it a vertical island. That's something I don't think we've gotten yet. So that could be really fun just with the disconnect. And I know Oda loves playing with perspective and size. So the fact that it's the Land of the Giants is already leaning into that. And we're already seeing some of that with some of the chapters that have just dropped. But what about the Straw Hats? I not only do I want this arc to focus on Usopp, because he's my favorite, I think we are long overdue for an arc that focuses on the weakling trio. Hell, I'll even go beyond that and say all the Straw Hats who have been put on the back burner since the time skip. You know, I love Luffy, I love Zoro, I love Sanji, but I feel like they have had it too good for too long. My main goal is to give all of the other Straw Hats meaningful depth, focus, development, and a lot of power-ups too. I specifically have some key ideas in mind for the weakling trio and their power-ups and what they could look like, but I'll touch on that a bit later. Originally, I was planning on for this arc, I was going to say this arc shouldn't focus on Luffy at all, but that is too much of an ask, and also, I like Luffy. It is totally not fair to be like, Luffy shouldn't be featured, even though he's the protagonist of his own manga. Plus, I think with all the Sun God Nika connections to the Giants, including Luffy, just kind of feels like a slam dunk in that discussion. But who should be the one to drop the lore on Sun God Nika? Saul! Jaguar D. Saul! Get him back! We know he's here! We know he's here, and that is probably something I'm looking forward to. This isn't even a wish as much as it is something I'm anticipating. Robin and Saul's reunion is gonna break me, and I want them. Robin needs to laugh like Saul. I need to hear adult Robin go dera shi 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 shi, because that is going to make me cry. And plus, I think Saul should have some lore drops. Nothing too crazy. We just got off of Vegapunk's big message, so I think it would be almost a bit too distracting to have Saul say something even crazier to overshadow that. And I don't think he should say something too big to take away from Robin's dream, because Robin is going to fulfill her dream soon and learn all the Void Century lore. So having Saul share lore about Sun God Nika, which doesn't necessarily have to do with the Void Century, feels appropriate. Do I think Robin should have a power-up? Not necessarily. She had her demon form revealed on Wano, and I think that's pretty good. If there's no room for a literal power-up, maybe just some new hockey improvements. But I know Oda doesn't write like that, so I'm not too hopeful on that. Who I am expecting a power-up from, though, is Chopper. Chopper! Why did I say Chopper? I'm not talking about Buggy, but Chopper! I want Chopper to have a Devil Fruit awakening, because, let's face it, he does not have the human fruit. There is something going on with his fruit, and the Rumble Balls and the Monster Point, there is something fucked up about our favorite little reindeer son. And I think now that we're finally talking about gods, we're on Elbaf, we're in the forest, now would be a good time to drop that Chopper has had the mythical zone for the forest god this whole time. It could be a great power-up, it could give Chopper, you know, something to do, and I love Chopper. Whew! Frankie, I think, again, we had a bit of a missed opportunity to give Frankie a huge amount of focus in Egghead, but he's on Elbaf now with Lilith, the last remaining Vegapunk. I think there's some opportunity for them to have like a heart-to-heart conversation about science. And specifically to give Frankie something to do, I think the Thousand Sunny should be in some kind of jeopardy. Maybe it's in need of repairs or an overhaul. I wouldn't say it's going to get destroyed this arc, but I think now that we're on the island, that with the wood that built that ship, and with Lilith and Vegapunk, I think Frankie has a huge opportunity here to work on the Thousand Sunny. A lot of people talk about the fact that Frankie technically already achieved his dream way back in Enies Lobby, so let's have him fix the ship now to make his dream feel more present, like he's actively working towards it, to make the ship that the Pirate King will take to Laugh Tale. I wrote down Brook. I don't got much for Brook. I don't have much for Brook, but I think he should be involved with Frankie in repairing the Thousand Sunny. Maybe he has to guide the soul of the Thousand Sunny into its new vessel and form. I don't know. I just like Frankie and Brook's dynamic, and as always, it's kind of hard to find something to do with Brook. He always gets shafted, and I'm of no help because I can't really think of anything. But let's get into the big one, Usopp. Oh, Usopp. Usopp's arc. This is Usopp's arc. I mean, in terms of power-ups alone, a lot of people throw around the fact that Usopp should get Thor's hammer because of how Thor's hammer is tied to Norse mythology and how the giants are tied to Norse mythology and how Usopp is tied to the giants. It all makes sense. And let's face it, I think this should be the arc. If we're talking about character development and exploring these characters, Usopp should fulfill his dream. I think it is such a fitting choice to have Usopp to be the first Straw Hat to fulfill his dream, because all he wants to do is be a brave warrior of the sea. And if Thor's hammer has a test of knowing if you're truly a brave soul, and that's how Usopp earns this power-up, I think that is perfect. Let's give Usopp everything. Let's get him up to speed, because that's the big reason I want to give all these characters power-ups. Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, they are right in the place they need to be for this final war. But every other Straw Hat has a lot of catching up to do, and I think there's a lot of rich narrative exploration you can make with that feeling of being inadequate and needing to catch up to your captain in order to rightfully stand by him in the final moments of this epic saga of a story. So yeah, let's fucking make Usopp yoked. Let's make him crazy. And you know what? I'm gonna be crazy here. We saw recently that Haki can be stored in objects thanks to the giant robot on Egghead. So I'm gonna go out and say it. What if there was like a former giant king that stored all of his Conqueror's Haki in Thor's hammer? I want Usopp to have Conqueror's Haki. I really do, because of, you know, making all of his lies come true. But I do understand that it doesn't totally make sense for him to unlock it. But if he unlocks it via borrowing someone else's Conqueror's Haki, I'm pretty okay with that. And I think that would get him the necessary strength he needs to really play with the other big dogs in the Straw Hats. And finally, Nami. I was not expecting Nami to really be a star player on Elbaf, but these first couple chapters are really showing that Nami is having a clear focus. Right now, chapter 1128 has not come out, so there's a lot of discussion if Nami is hallucinating, if she's in like a dreamlike state, if Loki is messing with her. So I think if Nami is going to be a focal character, and if we're focusing on the Weakling Trio, I want to stick with that. I think the Weakling Trio has great antics. A lot of the pre-time skip comedy comes from them just fucking around. And we're already seeing that, and I want to continue that. And I think in order to make Nami really get some development, we should tie her really closely to another big player that we can be expecting to see. So I'm going to start getting into side characters now. Loki. Loki is probably one of the only giants that we're really expecting to see. And it's really hard to say what role is Loki going to play. Is he going to be an ally? Is he going to be a villain? And I don't necessarily want him to be either. You know, with all the post-time skip arcs, the villains have had extreme build-up. The Yonko, the 5 Elders, hell, even Doflamingo, all of them have had years upon decades of build-up. So it feels a little cheap to introduce a character like Loki and just say, oh, he's one of the strongest and mostest evilest guys ever. We don't need that. We can just have a relaxing villain. If Loki's more of an agent of chaos than anything, I think that could be really entertaining. He doesn't need to be a big bad. If Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji are out of the story, then have Loki be the one to step in and be like a little minor threat to everyone else. I don't want this to just be another arc where we conquer a big bad. If that was the arc, I feel like a lot of focus could be taken away from the Straw Hats who need it, from the characters who need it, from the side cast who need it. I want Loki to keep playing tricks. Zoro and Sanji, I don't really know what to do with them. I don't think they need power-ups right now. If Zoro and versus Sanji is going to happen, this could be the arc to do it. Have Loki play tricks on their minds and make them fight for real, and then they injure each other so bad that they need to take a nap for the rest of the arc. That's fine. I'm cool with that. I can also see Loki, because we know marriage is on his mind thanks to some of the stuff we got during Whole Cake Island. I think it could be entertaining to have him try to marry Nami. I know marrying Nami is one of the worst things Oda has done with Thriller Bark and Absalom, so I think he owes it to himself to try to repeat that and not make it creepy and suck. I think you can have a lot of fun with that from a comedy perspective, and again, by putting Nami in that situation, not only does it make her the central focus, you can have a lot of character development for her by hearing her inner thoughts on Loki and the whole situation she's found herself in. Because let's face it, Loki is totally playing tricks on her right now. Other side characters. We have this mystery shadow figure that has been teased. I'm just going to be straight up and say I want this to be the man marked by flames or Scopper Gaban. I don't think it makes sense to introduce like a new character. I know people are saying Shiki, but if Shiki was introduced now, Shiki would just essentially be a new character. We are in the final saga. We need to be narrowing in our focus. And I think Scopper or the man marked by flames could be the two characters that can get us back on the right track. Hell, if we need to get rid of the weakling trio, we can have it so that the man marked by flames is like Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Jinbei. I haven't mentioned him yet. You guys gotta get out of here and get the last road poneglyph. Leave the rest of them to do their training arc. There's no nuance to what I'm saying here, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to get at. Let's see. Oh, and now let's get into another character that we know is not necessarily on Elbaf, but near Elbaf. Eustace Kid. A lot of people hate Eustace Kid. I'm a Eustace Kid fan. Not like a power scaling agenda fan. I just think there's a lot of interesting things you can explore with him. Eustace Kid right now is a very interesting character because we have had a lot of time with Eustace Kid, but not necessarily a lot of involvement with him. And now that Shanks has effectively taken everything away from him, like, let's be real, Killer could be dead. Eustace Kid is at the lowest point in his narrative journey, and I think there could be a really nice redemption arc for him. I think there is a lot of vulnerability that you can explore with him on the Land of Giants. He doesn't have a ship, he doesn't even have his dreams anymore, and that could be a nice foil to Luffy. You could have some conversations between Eustace Kid and Luffy, because it's very clear Oda's trying to build up the idea that Shanks is a morally gray figure, someone not to be trusted. And I think I don't want Shanks to be on Elbaf. I'll get that out of the way now. If Shanks is not on Elbaf, that gives us more time to sit with it, to cast doubt. I don't think Luffy is necessarily one to doubt people, but when it comes to his mentor, the one who shaped his worldview, I think there is a really good opportunity to point a finger at him and challenge him on that. Is that a person that Luffy will question? If the man who shaped him into who he is out here destroying Eustace Kid in his dreams. Maybe he hears word through the news that Bartolomeo has been destroyed by the Red Hair Pirates. Luffy could have doubt, and that could create a lot of tension between their eventual reunion, which I think will happen on Laugh Tale. Going back to Eustace Kid, Vegapunk's on the island. Maybe we could finally confirm the theory that he's a Vegapunk satellite. I don't really want that, but it's an opportunity that we can take. I hear people mentioning that they could see Law coming back, and I could totally see that. Maybe Beppo swam all the way from Winter's Island all the way to Elbaf, and now we have the Worst Generation trio back. I'm indifferent on that. I love Law, but I want Elbaf to be Eustace Kid's Dressrosa. And I think if Law is present, it could potentially take away from that. So let's explore Eustace Kid. And earlier, when I mentioned who should drop Sun God Nika lore, I said Jaguar D. Sol, but Uroge is a good candidate. The last member of the Worst Generation that we haven't seen yet, and while we're talking about gods, I think it's not a far-fetched thing to believe that Uroge is a disciple of Nika. I mean, he's always smiling, he's always happy. There's something there, and if Uroge is in the story, well, Enel could possibly return. Alright, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Enel returning, I think, has to happen this arc. It is something that I've been anticipating for so long, and I think now could be the time to do it. Enel is a great villain, especially if we're talking about gods and stuff like that. That is his whole shtick. Besides, if he doesn't come back now, I don't see him coming back on Laugh Tale. I don't see him coming back for the final war. It's literally now or never with Enel. And if Loki is more of an agent of chaos and we do need a traditional villain, Enel returning could be a really easy thing to do. I see people saying the same thing about Big Mom, with Big Mom returning and being a shoo-in villain, but I think Big Mom has had 2 major arcs where she has been a major antagonistic force. Having her back again could be a bit too much. Besides, Enel returning could also drop some lore on the ancient weapons and the moon. The ancient weapons are a huge factor in the story right now, so having Enel shed some new information on that could be really important. Let's see. Where did I leave off? Oh, yeah. So now we're kind of getting into the finale of this arc, and I think the finale of this arc should be crazy. I already talked about how I want the setting to be crazy, how I want it to be vertical. That's because I want it to all come crumbling down. That big-ass tree is gonna fall. There is no sugarcoating it. That whole tree is gonna get knocked over, and that's gonna be the countdown. Every arc has a countdown. The countdown is gonna be the tree fucking falling to the ground. That's what I want to see. I think it'll be crazy. And think of the matchups that we could have with some of these villains and some of the characters that I've mentioned here. Eustace Kid versus Enel is a really fun matchup to me. You have a guy with metal and magnet powers going up against a guy made of lightning. That is literally the opposite of Enel going up against Luffy. Eustace Kid would be fucked in that situation, and he would finally need to learn how to improve his haki if he was going to win that fight. Or maybe Enel just trounces him, because Eustace Kid relies a lot on his devil fruit. Enel has surely gotten stronger too. He already had really good observation haki all the way back in Skypiea, so we can only imagine how 2 years on the moon has helped improve his armament haki. Who fucking knows? Or mantra, that's what he calls it. We could also have the weakling trio versus Enel. You know, Nami has lightning powers thanks to Zeus. Usopp is going to have Thor's hammer, which could also have lightning powers. And then you have Chopper, who awakened his forest god fruit. But I could also see, both are good matchups, but I could see the weakling trio fighting Loki, especially if a lot of their character development is closely attached to Loki. And besides, I think Enel would have to die for what I'm about to pitch next, and Eustace Kid is really the only one here who is willing to really kill somebody. Because if Enel dies, I haven't talked about what I want Nami's power-up to be, and I know a lot of people have said this, and I'm not going to be any different. I want Nami to eat the Rumble Rumble fruit, the Lightning Logia. She's a weather girl. It is such a slam dunk of a power-up. I'm shocked it hasn't happened. Well, Enel hasn't showed up, so that probably explains it. But with Nami, it feels so right to have her eat the lightning fruit, and I think, again, that could give her a major power boost to catch her up to the rest of the crew. I know it's a little blasphemous to suggest a character eat a devil fruit this late into the game, when that's something that none of the Straw Hat members have ever done, but I think it's something so crazy, it just might work. Alright. So that's kind of all I want from this arc. I tried to get it through as quickly as I can, but I want to go over one last thing, and that's the outside world. What's going on outside of Elbaf? I don't want to get into specifics here, but I really liked in Egghead how we got to cut to what was going on Hachinosu, what was going on at the Reverie. So I want to continue that. I want every Final Saga arc to kind of break up its acts with what's happening in the outside world. And there's 3 groups / characters that I want to focus on. I think it would be nice if we got focused on anybody in the outside world, but there's 3 groups I want to focus on the most. Kobe and Sword, I want to see what they got going on. Kobe is being built up to be Luffy's rival, and if that is where Oda is going, he needs to have some kind of exploration here. Vivi. I need to see my girl Vivi. And honestly, I need her. She has to be coming back to the crew fast, because Vivi has to return for Laugh Tale. There, I said it. I wasn't sure, but now I'm saying it, and now I believe it. And finally, I want to know what Cross Guild's up to. We've got a lot of focus on Blackbeard and a lot of focus on Shanks, but Cross Guild has kind of been in the background. So I want to see if Cross Guild maybe gets a new recruit. Maybe Cross Guild has to be fighting the Marines. I've seen people throw around theories that Fujitora and Smoker are going to lead a Buster Call on, Bluffs Island. All those could be fun. I think Buggy's a great focus. So those are the three main groups. If we are getting focused on the outside world to break up Elbaf, those are the characters I want to see. But aside from that, those are all of my wishes for the arc of Elbaf. Let me know what you think, and if you like this style of video. Alright, bye. Now I gotta close the tab.